Hey you guys, today I want to share with you a better and easier way to make these cheese slicers. Now, I started making this cheese slicer a couple of months ago, and back then I made a video on how to make it. And we were using a jig for the drill press to make the hole for the hardware. And since then, I've made a lot of these guys. It turns out they sell pretty well. And I developed a new technique. I improved a few things, and I have a new way of making it that is going to make it better and easier. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, and also everything I'll be using in this video, I'll have the links in the description below. The one I made this amazing quilted maple cheese board with purple heart and yellow heart. I think it's super, super pretty. It does have feet on the bottom. And these guys will be available tomorrow on my website at www.skylarewing.store. And then I have this curly maple one, some amazing curl in it, and it has a yellow heart and wenge. The light is not great in here, but you have to trust me, this is a really nice piece of wood. So let's get to the video. Now, the first improvement that I've made to these boards is to make the round over before you make the hole for the hardware. And the reason why is when you are doing the round over for the profile, this ball bearing from your round over bit, it will ride inside that hole and it will create a divot. It will chew into the material. So I didn't know why that was happening to me. That's because you need to do the round over before you drill your hole for the hardware. Now, this is the board that we'll be working with today. Now, I didn't film gluing this panel because it's just straightforward. Just glue some strips of wood. This is some amazing quilted maple with some purple heart and yellow heart. It's going to look really, really nice. And I have a few more in here I'm working on. This is some miter wood and claro walnut. It's going to be really pretty. I have cherry and walnut. This one I think is going to be amazing. This is rosewood wenge and some really curly cherry. I think that one is going to be super, super pretty. I have another curly maple with some wenge and yellow heart. That one, it's also going to be a stunner. And I have some miter wood with purple heart and yellow heart. But like I said, right now we're just going to finish one because they're all going to be the same. So we're going to do this one. I already put the round over, as you can see, and I filmed it, but my microphone was not working, so I'm just going to show you a short clip of it. But basic, just a 1/4 inch round over, I think it looks the best for these tiny boards. So I already did that, and now it's time to drill the hole. And this is the big improvement that I made to these boards. Now, the first video when I showed you how to make these boards, we made the hole on the drill press, and you need to make a hole that is 3 inches and 7/8 deep. It will tell you in the instructions. And we made the jig and used the drill press, but it was a little bit tricky because although it was easy to make the hole, my drill press only goes 3 inches down, so I had to make the hole and then I had to raise the table and then continue the hole and line it all up. So it was just not very easy to do, and it took a little bit longer time than it should. So I had to come up with a different way to make the hole. The hole has to be very straight. You can't go in an angle, so I needed something that will make a straight hole onto the edge of my board. After a little bit of thinking, I came to realize that the dowel jig will do this perfectly. And this is a self-centering dowel jig. I will show you how it works. And the first thing I need to do is I got a really long drill bit here. I think this is 9 or 10 inches long. And I needed to see how far do I need to drill. Because the instruction says we need to drill 3 inches and 7/8. But then we also have all this distance here that has to go through the jig to get to the material. So this is how I measured it. So the way the doweling jig works, you see it has this lever and you open it, and then this will be hugging the material, and then when you close this, it should center it right on the middle of the material, something like this. So that's the way the doweling jig attaches to the wood. Now, I measured from here, because that's where the wood butts against. So from here to here, it's just about 1 inch. So I have 1 inch there, so then I need another 2 inches and 7/8. So I took a piece of scrap wood, I measured 2 inches and 7/8, and I put a line over there. So that's how deep my drill bit needs to go. So now if I take my doweling jig, I'll close it. Oops, the other way. So I have 2 inches and 7/8, and then I have another inch over here. So now when I put this, this has like these pins for different size dowels. I just put a 1/4 inch because that's what I'm using, a 1/4 inch. So you see I put some blue tape for a stopper. So I'm gonna go all the way to blue tape. And then if I lay this against my piece, whoops, let's see if I can do this on camera. So you see like right now, oops, I'm a little bit past. So there you go. This is what I'm looking for. There should be a good size hole. And I have my blue tape for a stop. And that's how I measure how deep I need to drill. So now let's go into drilling this hole. So which side do I want the top to be the top of my board? I think this one has more curves, so I'm going to put it here. That means my hole has to be onto this side. The hole has to be 5 inches from the front of the board. So I'm going to measure 5 inches, and it's right over there. Then I'll take a square and I'll make, oops, a mark this way. There you go. So now when you look at the doweling jig, I don't know if you can see there on camera, let's see. There are some lines in there, and those are the lines that you need to align. It's one over there, it's the white line. I hope you can see that on camera. So I need to line up that line with my pencil line. And that way I know that that hole is gonna go right there. So I need to open the jig. All right. And now I am lining this pencil line with the white line, something like that. And then close the jig snugly. Great. I'm going to make some room here on my table. We're gonna go here on the edge of my table. And I like to put a piece of foam here just so it doesn't scratch the wood. My table, it's all messed up and scratched up. And I need a clamp. So I'm going to hang out the jig off my table, take a clamp and secure this to my bench. Make sure it's not moving. There you go. I'm gonna get you closer this way. And now I am going to drill my hole. So I have my drill, and let's drill this hole. And now, while it's clamped, I'm gonna take the jig off. And there's our hole, perfectly centered and in line with our mark. Now the next improvement we'll do is when we cut the curve for the wire to go through. And the way the instructions will tell you is to cut the curve just a little bit lower than the hole. And cut it all the way across 3 inches from the edge. The problem with that is if you're working with 3/4 material, this is a little bit thicker than 3/4 material. The problem with that is that you're only left with a tiny little bit of material there on the bottom, and I'm just afraid that it might snap. So I wanted to make it better and more rigid, so that means we will cut this curve in an angle. I'm gonna do that at the table saw. Let's go check it out. So here we are at the table saw, and I have my table saw sled. I put a stop block at exactly 3 inches from the curve, so I make sure my curve is 3 inches from the edge. And this is where we need to put out the curve. So if I just put the board out here and I make a curve, I'm left with very little material over there. So in order to put this board on an angle, I took a scrap piece of wood that I have from some other project, And I'm gonna butt this against the fence like this and then put the board on it. And that is going to make my board sit in an angle. So now if I go here, let's see, I am above the hole, so the height is good there. And as I travel, I want to make sure that I'm still getting a little bit of cut in here. You don't want to end up with so much of an angle that you have no cut when you get to this side. So when I get to this side, it's going to be a very shallow cut, and then it's going to be a deeper cut on this side. So I'm just putting that piece of wood over there, put my board in an angle. This should work excellent. So now I butt it against the stop block, and let's make the curve. So now when we look at our board, if you look over here, this is the side that has the hole. We only have a little bit of material, and that's what I was worried of. If the curve just goes straight, we end up with the board snapping. But because I put it in an angle, on the other side, I have quite a bit more material, and this is going to make the board a lot stronger. I just now realized that we'll be working on the wrong board. This is the curly maple one, and I said we'll do the quilted maple one. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put the hole and the curve on this one, and I'll see you in a second. So I already sanded my boards. I sent it to 180, then I spread it with water, let it dry, and then I sent it to 220 to raise the grain. The boards are looking amazing, and now it's time to attach the hardware and the cutting board feet. So let's do that right now. Now it's time to install the hardware and the cutting board feet. I already did it on this board, but I am going to film this on my other board. So let's see. The board is sanded, ready to go. This is the hardware I'm using. I buy mine on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below. And it has a C arm like this. It has the handle with the wire. And then it also has instructions and a set screw. So this is the way we assemble this. We need to put the long arm goes into the hole that we drilled, and the short arm is the one that has a hole for the set screw. So you insert the long arm in there, and then when you see it coming through the curve, we want to take the wire. The wire, you hold it where the hole of the handle, it's towards the handle. So I'm going to place that in there, make sure the bar goes through it. All right, we are good. And now, I hope you can see from there. Now I will take the handle and push it into this handle, and now flip over to put tension onto the wire. I'll take my set screw and secure the handle in place. So now the handle is attached, and when I go down, you see there is the wire here. It's sticking out a little bit, so I'm going to take some pliers and kind of pinch that down so it doesn't scratch my wood. I found this, that every single cheese slicer had that little defect in there. And now, let's see. It is pretty lined up. As you can see, the wire goes in the middle of the curve. If it's not lined up, sometimes you might put it in and might look something like this where it hits the edge. Well, just kind of wiggle it and pull it a little bit to the right until both the wire and the top and the bottom, it's aligned with the right side of the curve, and then wiggle it back a little bit to center it. And there you go. Now it's time to attach the cutting board feet. I'm using these smaller ones. They come in different sizes. Make sure they are rubber because you don't want plastic, you don't want it to slide on the counter, and also make sure they come with stainless steel screws because you don't want your screws to rust while you wash your cutting board or cheese board, I'm sorry. So installing them are really easy. If you do not have a ratcheting screwdriver, I really recommend one, especially since I had carpal tunnel on both of my hands. This thing, it's a lifesaver. I absolutely love it. And the cool thing about it, I'll put a link to this one in the description below. If you push this button here, it comes with all kinds of attachments for it. So I've had a few of this over the years, but they were kind of junky. This one is really good. So I'm not sure if I forgot to finish, but I did put finish on this cutting board. I use pure tongue oil, and that's what I use for it. For the cheese boards, I'm sorry, I keep calling them cutting boards. But and there we go, and this is our cheese slicer.